My god man, the replayability will be massive, especially if you get rewarded for being bad with some new ships and parts specific to the pirate life. Hey guys, Dantix here, back with another Starfield video. Today running the clock back and providing some pretty compelling evidence as to why you should be pumped for Starfield if you needed any more reasons. I have some theories that are all but confirmed, as well as straight up confirmation of leaks that mention mechanics that haven't been shown yet, like pirate factions and starting locations. Really, just buckle up and check these out. I'll avoid all the padding and make it as quick as I can, right after mentioning that I'm still running the competition to win copies of Starfield and a 3080, so stay tuned to see how to enter. To start off, Will Shen says the following.
We've got Ryujin Industries, which represents corporate life. I think it has one of the best starts of any of the factions we've done.
It's a mega corp, and you get hired, right? Like that you would do, right?
We'll play for our job. We'll see if you cut the mustard.
I originally was confident that this was simply Will explaining that Ryujin Industries is a questline that was very entertaining. That when you do encounter them, the missions are a lot of fun. That you got to be onboarded with this corpo and do some shady things to see if you're a good fit. However, remember the leaks I took you through last year? We had no idea just how accurate they were until now. Well, if we circle back to it, a lot of things this leaker said was confirmed in the latest Starfield Direct, and this leak was made back in September 2021. Yes, 2 years ago, before the Directs. You could guess a few things that he mentioned, but there are some indisputable claims that made it seem impossible to guess. However, let's focus on the point here. The game starts with you choosing your location, aka you do not start at the same planet or station every time you start a new game. It depends on various things. Now don't worry, I'll break this leak down later so you can really assess the likelihood that what they've said is correct, but it seems like Will Shen may have been alluding to us choosing a starting location, just like the leaker said. Perhaps one of these starting locations is on Neon with Ryujin Industries. Think Cyberpunk 2077, where one of your starts was Corpo for Arasaka. It gave you a different tutorial story start, which gave you a few different dialogue options throughout the main game and side content. It might be similar in Starfield, wherein you have a different starting point that leads you to finding the artifact, and then you're taken to visit Constellation, where the main storyline starts. In the Direct, we've seen the potential of multiple starting locations, one with a mining crew or Dusties. We know it's a start because they hand you a tablet to build your character and then comment on your character building steps.
From chef to Dusty.
We also see you running to defend against a pirate attack, and after that meeting Barrett, which seems to be the start of the game as well, based on him commenting on you finding the artifact.
That means you saw it. The visions?
Perhaps you find it, pirates come to steal it, and he meets you and takes you to Constellation. I suspect he has some ties to Vanguard, which may be tasked to clear out the pirates. The leaker mentions this later on, so stay tuned. Multiple starting areas will add a ton of replayability and will really underline why there's so many more voice lines recorded for Starfield than any other Bethesda game before it. It'll be nice for you to opt for playing a pirate and can start out by doing shady things, or play a scoundrel character who redeems themselves. The start really paints a tone for the rest of the game, and if those choices show up in conversation, like backgrounds and traits do, then this game will truly be the most in-depth space RPG that we could ask for. Okay, so I teased one point of the leak, but let me expand upon and rate every leak so you can make your own mind up. So the leaker on the 19th of September 2021 also mentioned that there will be ship combat, with ships having missiles, lasers, and Gatling guns. This was before the Direct, and the Direct clearly showed the ships having those 3 weapon types. Though since then, we've found out there are more, like particle and electromagnetic, but the leak was still correct. Could you guess this? Absolutely you could. So this could be just a very lucky guess. I give this leak a 5 out of 10 on the credibility scale. We're starting off middling, sure, but there is compelling evidence coming up. Choose from a base model of ship, and from there you can swap things out like engines, weapons, cargo, whatever. You can also make cosmetic changes, pretty much change the whole ship. Think of it like power armor in Fallout 4. Guessing that the game would have ship customization is not that impressive. Todd would naturally want to expand upon customization of Fallout 4, however it's how the leaker listed these points, that you could swap out parts and you could also make cosmetic changes. This is how the game presents the information. In the shipyard, you have the option to enter the ship builder or upgrade the ship. Upgrading is just swapping out parts with better ones, and the shipbuilder is the full cosmetic redesigning. The fact that the shipbuilding is laid out like the leaker stated adds some credibility. another 5 out of 10. Nova Galactic is one of the manufacturers. They offer 3 different base models: Exploration Cargo Gunboat. Axion Energy offers 2, Mining Cargo. Argos has 1, Science and Exploration. I thought, damn, this has to be confirmation that the leaker is legit, but I couldn't let it slide. I had to go back and scrub footage to see if Nova Galactic was mentioned somewhere before, and I found it in this coffee mug. So yes, Nova Galactic was shown before this leak, but I can't for the life of me find mention of Axion Energy or Argos. This seems too specific to be a guess, but we haven't had confirmation that there will be starting ships to choose from. We've only seen the constellation-based starship, Frontier. We've seen that mining, cargo storage, combat science, and exploration are focuses of ships and skills, with the science skill tree having ship-based exploration skills and tech having cargo and weapon-based skills. Credibility is 1 out of 10 because we simply cannot confirm the facts yet, but it does line up. It would add another layer of replayability if we got to choose our type of ship to start with. Having one focus on combat or cargo or exploration at the beginning will help us lean into the role we want to play. Though I think Todd would want to keep it very baseline at the start, something we can build up and work towards when we don't have an idea of what we need yet. We'll have to wait and see. The leaker also states that armor is layered like in Fallout. Not sure if he means layered like power armor or layered as in having multiple different items. I've seen no evidence that spacesuits are layered like power armor and only seen basic clothing items from the direct, so have to give this a 0 out of 10 because we simply can't confirm it. Gravity changes depending on where you are: planet, moon, space, station. Wildlife looks more bulkier on planets and moons with higher gravity and sleeker on planets and moons with lower gravity. It's very science-based, so all of it makes sense. Still some wacky stuff, but that's to be expected. Gravity is a new mechanic in Starfield since Havoc is now gone and has been replaced in-house. For example, you can turn off gravity in a ship or station and everything that isn't attached to the surface starts floating around. This is another leak that's true, but because we haven't had a deep dive into gravity yet, we can't confirm every part. We've had brief mention of it during the most recent direct, and we've had IGN comment on how it played a big part on ships. They got to play a section where the gravity was turned off and it had them float around. This is something that you could guess, but it also seems too specific to focus on. Also, Bethesda mentioned in the direct that they want the creatures to make sense.
When we were concepting these creatures, we really wanted to think of them as natural to the environment. We didn't want alien monsters.
So this leak seems oddly credible. 7 out of 10. Each planet is bigger than Skyrim's map with negative space in between every handcrafted location. Would be stupid to let the player fly around in your ship when there's no actual distance between each place. This is one thing that may have changed since 2021 or might just be straight up wrong. The planets will be planet size and you can't fly around in your ship on the planet itself like you can in No Man's Sky. You can only fly around in space as far as we know. Either the leaker got this wrong, or this is one area they slipped up in a lie, or it's entirely possible that this was something they were looking to develop. When developing games, each lower tiered individual works on one narrow aspect and doesn't get the full picture until much later in development. No doubt this leaker, if credible, was a lower tiered worker. No senior staff would waste their time or risk their career on a leak or have such terrible spelling and grammar, unless it's a double bluff and they're typing like this so their mannerisms can't be traced back to them. I'm looking at you, Todd. Either way, the handcrafted locations and the negative space aspect is correct, so it could very well be a change in direction of the game, or perhaps he simply means the distance is needed if you're exploring full-size planets. Either way, 3 out of 10 leak. Procedural tech is used between locations, now works and looks much better than any of the previous games. You sometimes won't even notice it. There's Radiant AI stuff now built into this as well as other stuff. It's no longer just a brush tool to paint areas. It can do much more. Sadly, won't be part of Creation Kit. This is accurate and hard to dispute. It's hard to understand how the leaker knew any of this without any information on world building being released up to this point. 7 out of 10. Settlement building returns, this time much improved. Early on in the game, you get a quest to build a colony on a planet. You can decide to head there straight from the beginning of the game or just leave it on the side and do it later. Like usual, it's completely optional stuff. The quest basically acts as a tutorial to explain the player how settlement building works. Its own questline with multiple tutorials showing you different things and some lore attached to it so it actually makes sense as to why you're building a colony there. The dude giving you this quest is named Branson Garvey. Throughout the systems, you can offer refugees and other people to start a new life in your colony. Once they're there, they'll start setting up shops, and if you build a landing pad, traders as well as new colonists will come visit your colony. There's much more to talk about that stuff since it'll be one of the biggest marketing selling points of the game. If you have more questions, feel free to ask. Once you complete the first tutorial quest, you can start building a colony pretty much on every planet and moon. I can't confirm Branson Garvey, but would be funny if true. It makes sense logically that you'll be introduced to this system like you did in Fallout 4 and something you can revisit later. So that part isn't interesting. What is interesting is the people setting up shops and traders coming via landing pads. We see landing pads as well as ships taking off and landing in every showing of Outpost in the direct. It's the fact he said set up shops and landing pads that really sell this leak. There's actually a skill in Starfield called Commerce that mentions that almost anyone with the right skill set can open and run a successful business, alluding to the fact that there will be shops. This all seems credible, but there isn't something here that couldn't be guessed. Even inviting citizens to your settlements is something that was in Fallout 4 in a small way. 7 out of 10. I'm personally excited for the prospect of your outpost attracting citizens to come by and conduct their business. You might set up an outpost that offers a particular item or trade good, and you may see people coming and going to trade. This will make the universe seem very alive. I would love to do a playthrough where I focus entirely on building a strong economy, with outposts trading between each other and generating me a lot of income. Ships use warp tech to go from one place to another, and helium-3 fuel for regular combustion engines when you want to manually fly your ship. Guessing helium-3 for fuel is fairly impressive, but since 2021, Todd has mentioned that they no longer use fuel running out as a mechanic, so I can't accurately judge this leak. 0 out of 10. Graviton Field Loop Array is the warp drive. Yeah, that's the name. It sounds kind of bad, in my opinion. How did the leaker know this? Recently, Todd mentioned in an interview with Kinda Funny that this is what the grav drive stands for.
We say grav drive here, but it stands for the Graviton Loop Field Array. I've
scrubbed through information from back then and I can't find mention of this anywhere. Please correct me if I'm wrong or I missed something, but this seems like a relatively impossible guess. This has to be an 11 out of 10 credibility leak because it references something that is impossible to know without insider access. This alone makes me consider the whole post is worth our time to dive into. To be fair, Todd says Graviton Loop Field Array instead of Field Loop, but still, any normal person would assume grav drive means gravity drive and also wouldn't commit to a point of relative inconsequence when it could be easily disproven and destroy their credibility. Earth is a shithole, even more so than now. You cannot land there, but you can go to the other places in our star system. We've seen evidence of this in the Starfield Direct. Earth seems barren and desolate if this image is true. Bethesda doesn't want Starfield to be a spend time on Earth game, so it would make sense to not allow you to land there. We've seen the player visiting Pluto, Mars, Io to name a few places in our solar system, so this leak is also correct. Could be a great guess, but seems quite accurate. 7 out of 10. There's a city on Mars called Cydonia, one of the bigger urban areas in the game since it was the first place in Starfield's universe that got colonized. All other colonies' cities are pretty young still. Okay, sure, you could guess this. There are instances where Cydonia was used before in other media since it's an actual region on Mars. However, during the trailer it says, reminder, Cydonia security does not have a sense of humor. In the latest direct, we see that there is a city called Cydonia and it is a huge urban area and it was populated first. I could be skeptical and say, yeah, it's still an easy enough guess, but I'm on the fence with this one. He could have gotten this completely wrong, but is right again with part of the game that Bethesda have specifically highlighted. This is a 7 out of 10 leak. Two major pirate organizations, Black Fleet and Crimson Fleet. They are in war with each other, and you can join them or destroy both by joining Vanguard, a security force with the United Colonies, kind of like FBI/CIA, who deal with only heavy shite. There's also a few other pirate groups, but mostly non-organized pirates without a special name or something. Yet again, another leak that I find hard to rule out. We see the Black Fleet mentioned in multiple locations, from official images meta text saying Black Fleet to it mentioned here in the direct. We also heard Bethesda state you can choose to complete the Crimson Fleet missions by functioning as a double agent of sorts, kind of like a CIA agent, and reporting back to your superiors. We have seen mention of the Vanguard and United Colonies alongside talk of the Crimson Fleet. We've also seen the non-organized pirates without special names. Crimson Fleet was mentioned briefly before this leak in a memo you can zoom into, as well as the Vanguard. So it's not something that can't be put together, but the accuracy of this post is outstanding. It's an 8 out of 10 leak, and there's no way you could guess most of this without some kind of insider access. In Crick's system, there's an asteroid belt around a brown dwarf with a pirate city built into one of the asteroids. It's a neutral place for all the pirate organizations and groups where the player can go and join one of the two. There's also another ship manufacturer which you can unlock later on should you choose to become a real pirate. Right off the bat, this would have been a 10 out of 10 leak. It's confirmed that the pirate headquarters of the Crimson Fleet is in the Crick system as per the latest Starfield Direct. We've seen the Star Yard there. However, looking back in the memo stated before, the Crick system is mentioned containing the Crimson Fleet. So this could very well be a guess. 5 out of 10 leak. I would love the pirate life to be this in-depth. If we were to just look at the official info releases, we'd be led to believe there's only one pirate faction and only one quest line for them. If we have the choice of two, could play them off on each other and pick outcomes, my god man, the replayability will be massive, especially if you get rewarded for being bad with some new ships and parts specific to the pirate life. There's a cult faction who believe that Jesus/God came from the stars and is looking for his real birthplace. You can join them. This seems like it's either the Sanctum Universum or the Enlightened, two of the 3 religions you can choose as a trait at the start of the game. Whereas the Varum worship the Great Serpent, these two might be a little less crazy. This leak could be real, but we can't be sure what these religions stand for just yet. The fact that religion was mentioned specifically gives some credibility. 3 out of 10. The fact that we get special rewards for having a religion gives us extra replayability, and I can't imagine wanting to miss out on extra dialogue and a special chest if you have a spare talent point. Main story revolves around that alien structure thing you saw in the trailer. You're on a mission to find clues which are hidden across various star systems and planets in order to understand how to activate it. Each clue leads to a bigger clue, which then gives you a piece of the puzzle, until you have all and can activate the machine. So check out my video on the lore and theories around it. It's possible to guess all of this based on the teaser, and that was the first place my mind went as well, so 2 out of 10 leak. The biggest confirmation of authenticity is the fact the leaker linked pictures with the post. Since then, they've been confirmed to be true. There is very little wiggle room for faking this stuff. Just take a look. It's the player character in a test environment. All the UI is very similar to the current build of the game, making it relatively impossible to be faked. This is an 11 out of 10 for credibility, unless he pulled it from some other source. I'd be fairly confident in saying that most of what the leaker has said is true. It's very likely that the leaker simply didn't know the extent of the game's scope or the specifics on particular things and parts that have been removed or changed since 2021, but I'd say the bones of what is there is most likely correct. So it might be okay to start getting excited about multiple starts, multiple pirate factions, multiple starting ships, and more. What are you most excited for? Let me know below. I recently upgraded to a 4090, so why not give away my 3080 and a few copies of Starfield? If you want to be in the running, all you need to do is be subscribed, hit the bell, and like and comment on my Starfield videos. For more entries, do the same on other Starfield videos or check out my Twitter and Discord. The winner will be chosen using RNG, so more entries give you more chances. Best of luck and thank you so much for watching. I'll be covering the game more than anyone else, so be sure to stay tuned. Ciao friends.